Back, this is the Signature Morning on Signature TV. And of course, we'll be shifting focus to another discussion. We're talking about the electricity distribution. That's the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, which is NEC, has actually transferred the regulatory oversight of the electricity market to state. And to talk more about that is the EERC, ERC, Chairman of Enugu State, the Chairman Enugu Electricity Distribution, Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission, actually, talking about Mr. Chijioke Okonkwo. Good morning and welcome, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chijioke.
Good morning, viewers.
I almost misplaced the EEDC with the EERC because in the lips of every Enugu residents, we always hear about EEDC. You're the new chairman of Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission.
Yes.
Now, what is the role of EERC now to compare to EEDC, and what's the difference?
Okay, so EERC has been set up to take on the regulatory oversight of electricity services in Enugu State. We are going to now regulate activities of operators in this space. We're also going to license those that are going to operate in our space. Now, as of the 22nd of October that we took full control of regulatory regulation in Enugu State, EEDC ceases to operate in Enugu State. However, what they were expected to do by law was to set up a subsidiary that would be licensed by us to carry on their operations as a going concern in Enugu State. And they have established or incorporated a company named Mainpower Electricity Distribution Limited and transferred all its assets, liabilities, personnel, and operations to this subsidiary. And that is the people that we have currently given or granted an interim license to continue their operations as a going concern until we put all the structures in place for us to issue them a full license. So EEDC operations in Enugu State has come to an end. Instead, it's their subsidiary that we are now working with. And one of the beautiful things that, because everybody comes to come up with this concept that is the same wine in old skin, you know, that is the same company as the case may be, that they just changed the name. But they are going to abide by the rules and conditions that we now prescribe for them. And we expect that that difference, with us being on ground, to work with them to ensure that they deliver on efficient electricity services to the citizens of Enugu State, is imbibed into their culture.
Okay.
So EEDC, which is the Enugu State Distribution Company, electricity, yes. Does ERC, which is the EERC, does it distribute electricity or just regulation?
So ours is to create an enabling environment as prescribed by our law, Enugu State Electricity Law, create an enabling environment to develop an Enugu State electricity market for private sector developers to come into our space and play in this space. What we want to do is to create a market that is devoid of that monopolistic arrangement that we had prior to the establishment of our law and the commission. And to do that effectively, we are opening the sector for different players, be it in generation, transmission, distribution, or in retailing, to come into Enugu State to set up their businesses and deliver services to the customers in Enugu. Prior to our law coming into place as well too, what we had was EEDC carrying on the entire function, and that was basically a monopoly. You know, but since we're trying to develop a market is one where you can make choices of who you're going to purchase your energy from. And in providing an efficient service, what drives customers to actually say, okay, fine, this person can provide me this service? It's efficiency, reliability, affordability, costs, and so on and so forth. So if we can integrate competition into our own space within Enugu State, that level of competition can drive that level, adapt improvements in service delivery, improvements in affordability for the services that has been delivered, and would help, how do I put it now, ensure that customers receive benefit for what they are actually paying for. I mean, we say that customer is king. how do we exhibit that in the electricity space as well? By ensuring that the people that are delivering the service put that customer first, because you're a paying customer. You're expected to receive the services that you're paying for in the first place. And yes, while we actually want to have that level of interaction or improvements in electricity services in our state, we also expect that certain obligations should also come from the customer side, that you don't just pay your bills, but every infrastructure that any service provider puts in place within our space is almost denoted in dollars, because we're still importing this equipment. While we want to industrialize as fast as possible, we will also want a situation whereby people participate in protecting this infrastructure. Imagine that it's vandalized and a whole district is thrown in the dark. We become unproductive automatically. And for those that have self-generation, I mean, you're running your generators at very high costs, be it diesel or petrol. So we would like to see customers, citizens, support service provider in the electricity space by not just paying their bills, but in also protecting their infrastructure, equipment, and reporting when somebody probably steals energy or commits any theft. Because when you're stealing energy, somebody else who is the paying customer is paying for that energy you've stolen. You know, energy is not stored. You can't say, let me keep it in my back pocket till when I'm ready to use it. No, the moment it's generated, it has to be consumed by somebody. So for those that are not metered, we're working with the service provider to ensure that they are metered so they can even control their consumption. But in the larger space, I mean, it's supposed to be a complementary interaction for this business to grow. And while we're talking to the service providers and working with them to make sure that they deliver on the level of service that we expect our citizens should have, we are also going to be interacting with our customers to also meet up their own obligation by paying their bills on time, and also watching out to see that the infrastructure that is delivering that electricity to them in their various homes is also protected and not vandalized.
When you talked about metering, some people are being upgraded. Say we hear this upgrade of meters, so but they are being upgraded without the consent. And I'm wondering, how are you regulating, how are you ensuring, because you mentioned interacting with your customers, how are you ensuring that you're interacting with them and then you are they are consenting to any upgrade you want to do?
So that used to be what happens in the past. You know, that if the services you're receiving from your feeder has basically improved to 20 hours or more, 20 hours or 24 hours, as prescribed by NEC, you are upgraded to being a Band A customer, while the Band B customers probably enjoy less. I mean, Band B customers get between 16 and 20 hours, Band C gets between 12 and 16 hours of electricity supply. So it's something that is actually monitored, not just by the service provider, but by NEC prior to our coming into this picture and everything. Now, with our intervention, things are going to change slightly. We are basically going to have to issue the service provider a new arrangement. If it wants to retain what it currently has, by all means, it's in a position to do so. But if it wants to go back to the former system of delivering electricity service to customers, in which customers were classified alongside your use. If you're a residential customer, you had a specific tariff that you're expected to pay. If you're an industrial customer, you had the tariff you're supposed to pay. If you're a commercial customer, you had the tariff you're supposed to pay. But that is moving away from the banding arrangement. So they have the option of taking advantage of any arrangement to bill their customers. You know, and we are actually working with them now to understudy what they would want to put forward. They can still maintain what is currently obtainable, which is the banding arrangement, where a feeder probably delivers a certain amount of energy, and anybody that's on that feeder is put on a particular band. However, we are evolving. And in evolving, it's not automatic where you can say that this can happen overnight. No. By the time we finish reviewing their application for a tariff, we would work out what is the best. We would have agreed with them.
With all the customers?
Not just the customers. They'll present it to the customers, obviously, because there would have to be that interaction where they say that this is where we're moving to. I mean, we expect that communication is key, that before anything else should happen in the sector, everybody should be carried along. I mean, the market arrangement we are trying to institute in Enugu State is based on the willing buyer, willing seller arrangement, where you have that choice as to how much, not just how much, but who your service provider should be. You know, and if we're in a position to put people in that space where you can make that choice, be it districts, communities, because you can't say just one person, no. But the minimum would have to be a cluster of customers coming together to say, okay, I want this person to deliver this service to me. We are in a position to accept it.
Okay, still on the meter issues, there are some cases when you move into a building
Yes.
and there's a meter there already.
Yes.
And this meter is running into thousands of naira, and this new occupant is supposed to pay for the debt that was already inquired on this meter, being that this new person has no business with using this
Yes.
light. So what is going to happen? Is there any rule or anything
Yes.
that is laid down
Yes.
for the effectiveness of this problem?
Yes, so thank you for bringing that up, because we have had some people complain to us already about this particular issue. Let's put it out there that we expect that meters are installed by the landlords, and that the landlords are in a position to clear any debt that is associated with any meter before bringing on board a new tenant. You know, prior to now, even NEC had implemented it that no new occupants or tenants should be burdened by debt that has been left behind by the former occupants and
Because
everything.
it's a problem.
Yes, but if I will refer customers to our regulation on customer services standards and protection regulation, it's on our website and easily accessible to everybody. They can go through it. We expect that before a new tenant takes up any building or property, as the case may be, that the landlord that installed the meter, that probably has been paying the bill or who owns that property, would have cleared any of the liabilities or debt that has been incurred prior to that tenant taking it over. So yeah, it's not even acceptable.
It's something that has been going
Yes,
on for a while.
so please let them report to us. We are very accessible and already amenable to taking up as many of the complaints or challenges that our customers are experiencing in Enugu State.
You talked about, opening opening Enugu State to other distribution companies, but I'm worried, and I know a lot of people out there are worried, in terms of diversifying competition. How are you going to ensure reliability? Because one thing is we are going to have a lot of companies to distribute, to get power to go to. But now, how is EERC going to regulate their actions, regulate their activities to make sure that they satisfy each customer?
Because please forgive me for saying because.
It's fine, it's okay.
Well, basically, there's always a starting point to any journey.
Okay.
And our starting point is not from ground zero, basically. Apart from the fact that we are receiving a lot of information from the current service provider as to what their electricity services has been so far, we are also carrying out our own internal studies to fully understand what is obtainable in our space. I mean, information is key. It's critical for us to actually reach that stage of being successful in what we're planning. And in opening the sector up to other players to come into play, I would probably just summarize what our market design is supposed to be. At the moment, we're receiving energy from National Grid, and it's inadequate. Out of the 4,500 megawatts that has been generated across Nigeria, Enugu State just gets approximately 70 megawatts. This was as of 2023. And that initiated or kickstarted this entire process. Right now, we're getting an average of approximately 100 megawatts for the entire state, which we know is grossly inadequate, because high-level research that was also carried out put self-generation. I don't know whether you guys are running on a generator right now, so that it's not interrupted, that your process is not interrupted, but put self-generation at almost over 500 megawatts. That is a huge number that you're taxed citizens to generate just to have an improved quality of life.
Exactly.
We're now saying, okay, fine. Since Enugu can only get 100 megawatts from the National Grid, we're inviting generators, that's generating companies, IPP developers, that's independent power producers, to come into Enugu State, use the resources we have available. There's a lot of solar, renewable energy in Enugu State. We have gas, we have coal. Yes, we have some hydros. In fact, I actually was very happy when we visited one or two potential sites that could serve as a hydro facility, that could accommodate a hydro facility for power generation. By the time we bring all these people on board to set up, and when we're saying set up your power plant in Enugu, and I'm starting with generation, we're not talking about setting up 1,000 megawatts in one location.
Okay.
No, because if anything happens to it, everybody that's
connected.
benefiting from it is thrown into darkness. Come and set up 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 50, and 100 in different locations in the state. So that if my 5 megawatts is supplying this district, call it GRA and everything, if anything happens to their power plant, it doesn't affect the whole state, the collective. So these small pockets of power generation actually puts us in a position to be energy self-sufficient with respect to electricity services, not dependent on the individuals now. And I guess I should actually say that this is very important to us because of the recent activities that has been happening with the national grid. I mean, within the past 4 months, it has collapsed 5 times, and the whole country was thrown into darkness. You know, you can't develop like that. And that's why what we're doing, we feel, should be encouraged. And other states should actually take that initiative. Now, moving from generation to, I would say, transmission/distribution, because we expect that our market would evolve where the distribution infrastructure at 330 and above will become a wires business, where everybody that is either transmitting energy across the state would be able to use the existing infrastructure plus the ones that would also be integrated to expand connection to both places that are currently connected and locations that are not yet connected.
Okay.
That way, you can sell power across the
Okay.
state.
So you've laid a foundation of the responsibilities of EERC, and of course, but there's one particular thing. People still don't believe that EERC is going to do something different from EEDC. Everybody still think, oh, it's a normal ball game of the whole thing. It's like you said when we were starting, it's a normal thing. They will still come and talk, and before you know it, they will increase our everything. They will tell us to pay this, they will tell us to pay that, and all of that. So how are you, making sure that people are complying with your regulation, with your activities?
Thank you very much for that question. And may I also add voice to saying, may the soul of Senator Ifeanyi Ubah rest in perfect peace.
Amen.
Back to the issue at hand. The beautiful thing about, let me correct a notion. EERC would not be playing the role of EEDC as an operator. We are regulators, so we'll be playing the role of NERC in Enugu State. Our business does not go beyond Enugu State. Now, on the activity of the operator itself, which is EEDC's former operations that is now being taken over by Main Power Electricity Distribution Limited. I think first things first is that our people need to start getting used to the name Main Power when it comes to electricity services in Enugu. Then the second aspect is that while Main Power is a subsidiary of EEDC, Main Power is guided by our regulations as EERC. And the beauty about our own regulation, the starting point, is that we are on ground. We are not as far removed as the national regulator was prior to our establishment. We are on ground and easily accessible. We have actually started posting our contact details, be it our phone number, emails, address, so that people can actually come to our office and lay their complaints. However, we also expect that everything we do as regulators is guided by the regulations we have put in place, which means we would have to also accommodate some time for the new Main Power Electricity Distribution Limited to improve on its services to the citizens of Enugu State. Now, we don't expect that, like I said, they will be automatic because they are an offshoot of EEDC. And whatever negative character they feel probably that they are inheriting is one that we would work with them to put aside, to the point where they can actually start reorienting. In fact, we actually have started that conversation that staff should be notified that they are now under manpower. 1, 2, that is no longer business as usual as it is known before. Why? Because if somebody tells us that he has a fault in Osaka or in Abani, Ogu, anywhere across Enugu State, it will only take us an hour 30 minutes at most to get there.
Including
as regulator.
Sundays.
We walk round the clock. I receive calls from customers into the night. I mean, past 12 midnight.
Okay.
You know, so we're dedicating the entire staff of EERC is dedicating time to the electricity services in Enugu State. We're not even saying that we're perfect. We're saying test us and see whether we'll respond. When we get calls and multiple calls keep coming at the same time, back to back, in some cases, because we know that in some cases it can be overwhelming, we actually return calls to ask the customer, sorry, you called us and we couldn't take your call at the time that you called. What is the problem? And we'll direct that problem to the appropriate department that would work on it. I must say that Manpower has also tapped into that same level of anointing in responding to customer complaints and acting on it in real time as fast as possible. So yes, it may not be immediate, but we want customers to even give us that feedback that there has been certain levels of improvement in service delivery from their service provider. That is when we can actually rank ourselves or rate ourselves and say that, okay, fine, this is gradually beginning to pick up steam.
Okay.
But we have to be given time to get this done, really.
Okay.
Okay, so for costs, down
Yes.
to costs, is there like a subsidized method of paying for your light bills? Being that you said initially that now that you're working on things being easier, more cost effective, are there chances that the tariff bill is going to come down a bit? It's not going to be as expensive as people are complaining now?
So when you say expensive, expensive for whom? Band A customers? Because I don't hear Band B, Band C, Band D, and Band E complaining.
Complaining. Okay.
You know, so let me answer the question about subsidy first. We're not expecting that we will deal with any form of subsidy in Enugu State. No. Instead, what the state has done was the same law that set up the Enugu State Electrification Agency. And this agency is meant to support private sector developers in putting their projects in place. Now, they could help support you with access to land. They definitely would support you in granting you that right of way to connect to the electricity infrastructure, existing electricity infrastructure. And in some cases, they could actually support you with some level of funding to reduce your capex. Imagine where the state is willing to support the development of the infrastructure or the development of the project rather than support or subsidize consumption.
Okay.
By the time, if you're building a house and I say, okay, fine, building this house will cost you 100 naira, that you have, if I let you spend that 100 naira, the person that will stay in that house will be paying the value to recover your 100 naira. But if the state takes on the responsibility and say, okay, fine, let us support you and reduce that cost of 100 naira to 70 naira, I've already offset 30 naira, which is borne by the state, and reduced how much you will now charge your tenants, because you're no longer recovering the cost on the 100 naira, you're recovering the cost on, on 70 naira. That is the level of, how do I put it now, reduction in prices that the state is willing to accommodate. Now, in doing so, we also expect that the service provider would integrate that level of efficiency in delivering their service. And part of the reason why this potential subsidy arrangement has been put in place was because of the level of indebtedness that has frustrated the system. So what is happening with Grid Connected Power, that is at the national arrangement, is something we're trying to remove at this state level, that we actually undertake operations that are efficient and cost reflective. It's the actual cost of delivering that service that we would expect our customers to pay. Now, I can't tell you right now that it will be high. I can't tell you right now that it will be lower. But I can actually tell you that our customers at the end of the day will be happy with whatever we put in place. However, while you're paying for that service, please, we want to educate our customers on the demand side management. Because if you feel you're a bourgeois and you have that money to spend, by all means, use all the facilities you have in your house. But if we actually imbibe that culture when, if you leave a room, you switch off the light. If you're not in a particular environment, shut down the electricity system in such locations. If you use your power for probably say 12 hours, I can assure you that everything you have in your freezer is frozen. So you can afford to switch it off for another 6. You are managing your consumption to an extent. Then use energy efficient appliances. I mean, once in a while, it actually it doesn't hurt to enjoy fresh air. You know?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chijioke Okonkwo. Thank you. I hope, like you said, the customers will be happy. Let's take it. We'll be watching and seeing what EARC is going to do, and then we're hoping that every customer in Enugu State is going to be happy with you guys. Thank you for your time. He's the chairman, EARC, Enugu State. All right, that's the most we can take for the interview this morning. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back after this.